Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Clarks. I'm your co-host, Javian.
I'm your other co-host, Tyler.
And you can tell that we have a great guest, one I'm super excited to talk to today. He is third trumpet in the Rochester Philharmonic in Rochester, New York. Please, and he's just a fabulous person, great trumpet player, all-around musician, jazz, classical. He does it all, people. But join me, applaud Mr. Herb Smith. Thank you for joining the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
So, we have a lot of questions for you, but before we get to our main questions, our first question is, do you drink coffee? And before I ask you what you're drinking today, if you are a coffee drinker, Tyler, what are you drinking today?
So I have some beans from Counterculture.
Oh, you like that one, yeah.
Yeah. And this, the title of this bag is Apollo. So it's an Ethiopia blend, actually. It's pretty good. It's not too bad. I got the bag here too. But it says citrus, floral, silky. It's it's like a medium to light roast, which is kind of my world.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's pretty good. I've been doing it mostly on the V60 setup, and it's been doing pretty well. I've actually been thinking about doing coffee subscriptions. So if people know any good recommendations, because I was like, oh man, it'd be really cool to be like, all right, this month I'm going to try a coffee shop from like Colorado or like Oregon, like somewhere that I can kind of spread my wings, especially since I'm not really traveling at all. So that'd be really cool to like support local coffee businesses and try their stuff. But anyway, what about you, Javian?
So I'm also drinking a Ethiopian blend. So it's funny you mentioned that. Mine is from a Thousand Faces Coffee. They're out of Athens, Georgia. It's called their Cocoa Blend. I don't know, but it has this berry, milk chocolate, floral tasting notes. It's actually really delicious. Like when I first had the first cup of it, as soon as I opened the bag, I was like, yeah, this is it. Uh, so I brewed this on my Chemex. It's really good. I went up to Athens a few weeks ago for a conference, so I just like, oh, let me try out some of the local coffee shops. And I've also too been thinking about doing a coffee subscription. One of my friends, he did one. He got it as like a birthday gift, and he really liked it. So he had coffee from all over the place. So I'm also thinking about doing that. So I just haven't pulled the trigger on that one yet. But yeah, so it's a Thousand Faces Coffee. If you live in the Athens, Georgia area, you should definitely check them out. They're in the downtown area, so definitely check them out. Really good stuff. So Herb, I don't know if you're a coffee. I think we've talked about it. I think you're like really into coffee from what I remember, but I could be misremembering this. Are you into coffee? If so, are you drinking any today?
Well, I used to be.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. You don't drink it anymore, right?
I used to be like heavy in the coffee. I had a one of those coffee makers that keeps the water hot, and so like it has a thermostat, so that when you put the grounds in, you have a pot of coffee in like 3 minutes, right? Because the
Mm.
water is always hot, and I used to get down with that, but it's a funny story because I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was staying with me and everything, and we broke up, and so I come downstairs the next morning like, okay, I'm getting me a cup of coffee. She's out of my life. I'm good. I go down there. I get ready to grind the beans. She took the grinder. So I was like, ah, right. So I grabbed some tea. I had some tea there because I couldn't do coffee at that moment. I'm not gonna sit there with a hammer and like smash up some beans. And then I just never bought a grinder. And so like 3 days later, I realized I haven't had coffee in 3 days. I've just been drinking tea. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with this. And I haven't drank coffee since. And that's been like maybe 7 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah, I have
That's
not drank coffee. So this here, I do drink caffeine tea. I drink caffeine tea. I don't drink black tea, but I do drink green tea. So this is green tea with a little lemon in it.
mm.
I rock teas, man. I'll drink. Yeah, but I used to be like, pot of coffee a day, like just boom, like just drinking it all day long. Coffee shop knows my name, hey
Yeah.
bro. Now so now I'm just a tea person now. I'm just a tea.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard some benefits about that. I've heard like how like tea caffeine hits you differently
It
than
does.
yeah. It's a
It
little
does.
slow at the beginning, but it's more sustainable through.
Well, it's a trip because every now and again, like if I'm somewhere, I'll be like, you know what, let me get half a cup of coffee. And I'm telling you, man, it takes me way up. Like I'm like, let's go. Let's practice some Charliers. And then the next day, I am low. I'm down. Like my body just doesn't do that caffeine from coffee anymore. So it's fun though, every now and again to just get a little shot.
Especially when you need it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right,
You need a
right.
quick rush.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, Herb, how did you get your start in music? And at what point in your development as you're growing up did you decide, hey, I kind of want to pursue this as a career? Or was that even a thought? I mean, was it one of those things that like you just kind of continued down the path and then it organically happened? Because I know for some people it's like, this is what I want to do. They kind of make a choice. And for other people, it's like, I don't know, it just kind of happened and I kind of walked into it. So, can you explain a little bit of that?
Well, I mean, I remember, I started in fourth grade and all that, and um, picked the horn and everything. And then I remember the school that I was going to, I had to make a choice between going to like a math, like I think they call them magnet schools or something, and but they didn't have a music program, and then another school which is like a performing arts school, like a art school. And I remember in sixth grade just thinking, I like the trumpet a little bit. I don't want to stop playing it. You know, I wasn't thinking this is my calling. I wasn't thinking that in sixth grade, but I just decided to make a decision to go to an art school. And that decision really is what sparked it. Because once I went to the art school, then there was just so many more kids like me, that were into the music and all that. And then my senior year, my I was always good in math and music. So my dad really wanted me to be an engineer. He's like, don't go into music. There's no money in it. It's and and at that point I was like, I really want to go into music. At that point, I remember like I was in the youth orchestra. We did our joint concert with the Cincinnati Symphony, and I was sitting next to Marie Speziali. She was second
Mm.
trumpet in Cincinnati, and Stephen Pride was fourth, I believe, and Eugene Blee. No, Eugene Blee was fourth, I believe. And I really idolized those guys. And I was like, I want to be in an orchestra. So I actually had my band director, my principal, the assistant principal, teachers sending my dad notes and calling him, telling him that it would be good for me to go into music. And then basically we made a compromise, and I went to Eastman as an education major, not as a performance. Um, but I was just like defiant. I am not going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a performer. And my mom, my mom jokes with me about that all the time. Don't want to be a teacher. I see you doing a whole lot of teaching now. Like, mom, you were right. You were
Yeah.
right. But and that was really, that was it. Like I really feel like that move that I made in sixth grade really helped to my trajectory to go into music.
Awesome. Awesome. So since you chose this path to go to this art school, and I'm assuming you had all these great teachers along the way, who would you say are some of your great musical mentors, or just people maybe not musicians, and what have you learned from them and with their mentorship that's really impacted you as a teacher and player?
Well, when I was a senior in high school, Of course, and like so many, like you talk to many black trumpet players, and they got a Wynton Marsalis story. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? He just was just a very inspiring guy, and just was always looking out for young black trumpet players. So I was in high school, and actually a guy who graduated from my school when I was in eighth grade, eighth or ninth grade. I think he graduated from my school. And so he was in a jazz band, and I was like a little eighth grader hanging around the older guys trying to play in jazz band. I think it was seventh grade actually, and he was a promoter, so he brought Wynton Marsalis into town, Cincinnati, and it was up in Clifton. There was this place up in Clifton.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that.
I can't remember the name of the place. Anyway, so he was like, "Herb, man, come to the concert and come backstage and meet Wynton." So I went to the concert, and then at the intermission, I went to meet him, and he let me play his trumpet, and that was before he had the Monet trumpet. And I remember he had a gold plated mouthpiece, and I had never seen that before. I was like, "Oh wow, gold plated mouthpiece!" And I didn't bring my trumpet with me, so I actually played his horn, his mouthpiece, everything. And
Wow.
and he was just like, "Go home, get your horn, and come back. I want to hear you play." So my dad, we got in the car, drove back, got my horn, came back, and I played Charlier number 2 for him.
Mhm.
And I just remember him saying, he's like, "Man, you're a good player." He says, "I really think you should go into music." And he says, "Man, your body just resonates. Like you have a good resonating sound from your body." I just remember that, like, wow, like I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, you know, and that really was the kicker, because then I got into Eastman and went and set up a scholarship for a black trumpet player, classical school, a full scholarship for a black trumpet player to go to Eastman. And I was the first recipient of that scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the first recipient of that scholarship, and I believe that scholarship is still going today, for
Awesome.
a classical black trumpet player. So Wynton was a big influence. It's like everything you have, everything I have, it all comes with help. We
Mhm.
always have help. You know, so I mean, just along the way, there've been like many, um, influencers. I mean, in church, all the men in church, Deacon Pitts and Deacon Madison and Deacon Banks and Brother Badgett, all these guys were like just these pillars, these men that were professionals, and they come in and looking sharp, and they were taking care of their family, and they had good jobs, and it's like any one of these men could give you a whooping, you know, and and like, and they wouldn't probably give you a whooping, but they'd tell your dad, like, I saw Herb over there acting up. Okay, thank you, man. The next thing you know, you were getting the whooping, but it kept you straight, So all these men in my life, and then later in life, Barbara Butler was a really good person for me, for my trumpet playing, and then after that, Jerry Cowlett. Um, just I tell you, that man changed my playing. He really, I would not be doing what I do today without the tutelage and lessons that I had with Jerry. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm. To circle back to the Winton thing, have you seen him or interacted with him since that time when
I
you're?
have actually. Yeah, actually. Well. A couple times. Well, one. The Lincoln Center Jazz Band came up to Rochester, and I set up a jazz gig with my group at that time. I was playing in this kind of funk-ish type of group called Thornwood, and it was Thornwood because it was the street. The guy who started the band, that was the street he lived on, called Thornwood. And we were like, it's, you know, it'll poke you, but it's also warm. It's wood. Anyway, and so we had the whole band. We told the band afterwards because the place where we stayed was right near Eastman, the place where we were doing the gig. And I talked to Winton and everything. And Winton didn't show up there, but the whole band showed up. So we had this amazing killer jam session. My pianist was upset because the pianist killed his piano, was really hitting it hard or whatever, killed his piano. But and then other times when they came into town, like I called Winton up. This was years ago. I set it up so we could all play basketball at the Y.
Nice.
That was fun. We did that. And then one time he came up for the jazz fest, and they have a jam session after the Rochester International Jazz Festival. They have a jam session at the hotel where everybody stays. And Winton was up there playing, and I walked in there, and they weren't letting anybody go up to play with Winton because everybody wanted to come up there and play with him, but they weren't letting anybody. And when I came up there, Winton was like, "Hey man, come on up here." So I went up there, and we blew All the Things You Are. And I was just kind of like, I'm gonna get up here with Winton, and he might just tear me a new one. Like that'll be a good story.
Yeah.
It's a good story, man. I played with Winton, and man, he tore me up. But I held my own with the man. I held my own with him, and we jammed. We then played a blues after that. It was really really fun. So yeah, I've had a couple moments. And I think one time I saw him and I was like, "Hey, Winton, I just want to introduce myself to you." He's like, "Man, don't you ever introduce yourself to me. I know who you are, Herb, man. What's up? How you been?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
great. So obviously we talked about some of the jazz language and background and expertise that you have in that, but you also have been playing in the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. I want to say, from looking up information, it said 1991 you joined the orchestra. So that was the year I was born, so I know it's 30 years. Not showing your age, but showing your wisdom. And how this question is, set up is, okay, you've been playing with an orchestra for 30 years. And before we were on the call, you talked about, okay, we're doing John Williams this weekend, we're doing this and that. So how have you maintained a healthy perspective over the years going to the job where sometimes it could be a little rinse and repeat? It's like, okay, we're doing another pop thing. Oh, we're doing more Beethoven, whatever it may be. So how have you mentally, and if you want to, you can kind of get into like the aspects of musicality and trumpet playing, maintain that healthy perspective and journey for 30 plus years. I mean, that's hard to do. And I think a lot of people don't really talk about that. They talk about winning the job, but they don't talk about like continuing staying healthy and keeping a healthy perspective through your career.
Yeah, that's a great question because I really feel that a lot of musicians in symphony orchestras don't have a handle on that. Their orchestra musicians can be jaded. I mean, just you get a new job and it's the same. It's like people feel like, okay, if I move from this orchestra to this orchestra, then it'll be better. No, it's like it's you. You will still be in that new orchestra job. Orchestras play the same music over and over, and you get to a point where, it's like, okay, we're doing Shostakovich 5. Okay, I'll just leave my book there. I'll just pick it up when I come in for rehearsal on Tuesday. I'm not even gonna practice it because I've played it so many times. To me, it's about, keeping my chops at the point where I know I have the chops to play it. I don't really need to look at Shostakovich 5. Third trumpet Shostakovich 5. I played that a zillion times. It's like Pictures at an Exhibition, third trumpet, man. That's Pictures at an Exhibition. Have you ever played third trumpet on Picture at an Exhibition?
I played second, but yeah.
Third trumpet
the third part.
Worst part. It is the worst. You are watching all this music go by you, and you're just sitting there.
It's so true.
You're just sitting there looking like, okay, yeah, that's good. Oh, okay, great day of Kiev. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? It's like, so the way that I have kept a good handle, because I still love playing in the orchestra, is variety. Like, the orchestra is not my only musical outlet. You have to have like you have to me, I have to have a musical expression. I have to be able to express myself musically. So the same time I'm playing in orchestra, all these years, I've had my own jazz groups, you know. So like, we have concerts on Thursdays and Saturdays, and then on Friday night I'm playing a gig at a club. You know, I also would leave Rochester and like go sub with Buffalo Philharmonic sometimes. I would go sub with them. Buffalo is just about an hour drive from here, from Rochester. You know, and then like I said previously before we started the show, like this week I'm playing. Just yesterday we just did a concert of John Williams music. But next week, I'm playing lead on My Fair Lady, the traveling show. So it keeps things fresh, you know. So when I come back in there to play Beethoven Five or third on I don't know anything, it's like I'm fresh. I've had a chance to really express myself. And the other thing I do is I really kind of keep this circle of like playing, practicing, composing, you know, conducting, and I just kind of keep that thing looping around, and then I'm able to deal with being in the orchestra for as long as I have. Now, just so you know, like I got an RPO when in '91 because I got there right out of college, and it was an amazing story what happened because the first trumpet player took a year sabbatical. They moved the second trumpet player up to first. They had an audition. They had like a 1 year position for second, and they just did kind of an audition of like they just kind of invite only for a 1 year position. At that point, I was a senior in college at Eastman, and I was playing extra and fourth with them sometimes when they needed. So I was on a list. So then they invited me to take that audition as well. And I go in there and play, and we were doing Mahler threes, this post horn solo, boom 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 bee, right? And I had this little green. It was actually like a Robin Hood hat, like a felt Robin
uh,
green, like the Robin Hood hat that kind of goes like that. And I had a little felt hat, and I put it on my bell so that it like gave it a kind of a distant sound for the post horn solo. I'm playing the piece. I got past the first round, so this was a round where there was no screen. I'm playing the post horn solo. The the felt hat falls off during the post horn solo, and I'm just like, and in my head, I'm like, damn, you know. But I'm like, dun 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 dun. I reach down and pick up the thing. Dun 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 dun. Put it back on. Dun 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 dee da dee. Right? I just without missing a beat, picked it up, put it back on, and then kept going. And then at the end of the thing, the guy comes out, and I thought they were going to do another round, and he says, "We are not doing another round. We have a winner, a clear winner." And I was just like, "Well, it ain't me because I dropped my hat." Winner is Herb Smith. I was like, "What?" I was what, and I beat out like I don't know if you know Bill Williams. He's playing somewhere big. Jeff Biancalana, he's somewhere playing someplace big. There were some other guys there too. And then after everybody had lost, because I had played with everybody that was on the committee. I played with, I played with, you know, Cherry Bogart, who was the tubist back then, and Abe Lillard was the principal trumpet, and principal horn, Becky Root, all these. I'd played with them before. And when they came out, they were like, when you dropped your hat and picked it up without missing a beat, that is what got you the job. Like you were cool and calm, you just picked it up and you didn't miss a beat. They were like, that got you the job. I was like, okay, note to self. Bring a hat, drop it, then pick it up and put it back on. That's how you win a job.
Exactly.
So no, so like, like just little things kind of just keep you fresh,
Mhm.
kind of keep you fresh. And that's how I got into orchestra. So then after I was in the orchestra, that 1 year turned into a 2 year. And then I was out of the orchestra for a while because the guy came back. They took an audition. I was runner up. Paul Markello. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah.
In Montreal. He won the job first, and I was out of a job. So then I was like extra, just hanging in Rochester for like maybe 5 or 6 years. Then third trumpet opened up, and I won that position, and I've been that ever since.
Awesome. Man, that is the story. No, that's great. I had no idea. So obviously you've just talked about your orchestral experience, and we know that you're this. At least I've heard you play jazz, in various settings. I'm just like, when the first time I heard you, I was like, man, this guy's killing. So, like, can you talk about like how you develop both sides of your playing, especially at like Eastman, which is traditionally like this very heavy like classical institution. So how were you able to develop both these styles of playing?
Well, first of all, it was in high school because my band director was a trumpet player who, um, just a little story. I just played a gig in Charleston with the Color of Music, and we did a little recital. And unbeknownst to me, my band director from sixth grade to 12th grade was in the audience.
Nice.
And I did not know that. And so after I played, I came back out and I see this guy walking over to me, and he pulled down his mask. I was like, Mr. Berry, oh my God. I hadn't seen him in so many years. He lives in Charleston. He heard about it, saw it on my Facebook, all that. Anyway, he was a trumpet player and he did both. He actually played in orchestras around Cincinnati, and he was like a lead trumpet player for different bands and stuff. And he encouraged me to do classical and jazz in high school. So I was, lead trumpet and soloist in jazz band, but I was also principal trumpet in the orchestra at school and in the Cincinnati Youth Symphony Orchestra. So then when I went to Eastman, um, I was all about just doing both. And the way Eastman worked back then, which it doesn't work that way now, which I kind of feel like it's maybe missing out because Eastman did not have an undergraduate jazz degree when I went to school there.
Mm.
So a lot of the great jazz musicians that came out of Eastman went to Eastman for classical music, not jazz. Like Dan Wilazinski, who lives in New York now. He's big jazz saxophone player, does doublings and stuff. He came there as an oboist and took up saxophone. You know, see Byron Stripling, classical trumpet player at Eastman. That was his thing. He was not a jazz major at Eastman, but the way that it worked was that the graduate program was jazz. Had a jazz degree. So all the rest of the bands were filled in with Eastman students, non-jazz majors. So like my first week there or whatever, I found out when the jazz auditions were, and I auditioned for jazz ensemble, and I made it into the top, not the top band, but the second to the top band. I made it into that band as a freshman. So I was a freshman at Eastman playing in, in the wind ensemble. Not East. I think I wasn't wind ensemble. The lower ones don't play in wind ensemble. They're playing in the wind orchestra or whatever. And I was also in the second jazz band at Eastman. I was doing both just from the get, from freshman year. And I was getting flack from everybody. I was getting flack from Barbara Butler a little bit. You need to stop playing that jazz. It's messing up your chops or whatever. And then I was getting flack from like Bill Dobbins. Herb, man, you need to learn how to play rhythm changes in all 12 keys. And I was just like trying to balance that. And a lot of times I felt like an outsider in both worlds. you
Mm.
know. Like the classical people look at me like my sound's too jazzy, and then the jazz people look at me like my sound's too classical, you know. But I just stayed in it. I just stayed in it, and just and now that's what I do. Like it's really great for me when I play somewhere and people say, "Wow, Herb, I didn't realize you played jazz so good," or "Wow, Herb, yeah, right, you're a really good classical player." That's great to me because you don't want any whiff of classical when you're on the bandstand, and you don't want a little bit of lingering smell of jazz when you're playing third on Shostakovich 10, you know. So yeah, I just stayed in it. I just really did. It's a lot of work, and I feel like my jazz playing, I mean I play jazz well, but I feel like there's just so much more to learn. There's just
Mhm.
so much more to learn. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I could probably learn how to play better over 2-5-1s, and just whatever. It's like there's just so much to learn, which is a good thing because then you're never bored. You just keep going. You know.
When you were at Eastman, were there any other trumpet players or maybe other instrumentalists that had that same desire as you to kind of dabble in both and pursue both?
Oh
Or
yeah,
were you kind of okay? So you kind of had some people that you could cling to and support each other. Because I feel like an environment like that, when you're getting teachers, professors, you kind of like. I feel like it could be easy to get in your head and be like, "Man, am I making the wrong decision? Like, is this going to hamper me from or dampen me, excuse me, from progressing?" Because it's like my progression might be a little bit slower here and there because I'm not solely putting my focus in one end.
yeah. I definitely. I mean, I just remember like I remember this one concert in jazz ensemble where I had a solo or whatever, and I just was not happy with how my solo was progressing, how my solo went. I was just mad. Like, I got to practice Petrushka and all these other stuff, and I'm not practicing my jazz stuff. I mean, I was having those kind of thoughts and feelings all through college, just wishing one was better. But I think, it's like I was doing it though, I was making it work. But I really did try to stay even on both. Like I really tried to not pick one or the other. Where what happens with a lot of people is they end up choosing a side. Like I'm thinking about my friend John Owens, who is he's lead trumpet player. I think he's been playing Wicked for like 12 years or something like that. Lead. He is a monster lead player. He is a monster lead player, and he was a monster lead player at Eastman. But he was a classical major, but he made his choice. He chose, I'm a lead player, I'm a jazz player. He had made that choice before he graduated. Same with a person like Joey Tartell,
Mm.
right? Who is fantastic trumpet player, classical major at Eastman. Made his choice. He's clearly a lead player. Clearly made that choice. I tried not to do that. I tried to stay. I just had this thing. I can do both. I can do both well. And you run into a lot of flack from people with that. But I really, really really try to not pick, a side.
Yeah.
Can you, this isn't one of the questions, but you brought up that circle, and that kind of sparked some more questions. Can you talk about that a little bit more? So you mentioned like the orchestra, like jazz improvisation, that type of thing, and then composing and conducting. So how does this circle look like for you in terms of balance? You just mentioned the word even, staying even in all those categories. Like, do
Yeah.
you how does your brain work in processing, like, okay, I haven't hit this in a little bit, or I need to hit this? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's keeping the balance is really tough.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like I haven't mastered that yet, you know. Um I mean just recently I conducted Symphoria, which Symphoria is the orchestra formerly known as the Syracuse Symphony. I just conducted them, knowing that right after I conducted them, I had this um, John Williams concert. So, I'm focusing on my scores and everything, but I'm like, okay, you got this John Williams concert. So I kept just kind of keeping in a rotation, just kind of like, okay, I'll practice. Okay, now we'll do my scores. Now we'll practice, do my scores, and so you just have to kind of look a little bit. Generally, I'm like 1 or 2 weeks out, like what I'm doing, and that helps me. That helps because you don't want to be too far out because like now I'm practicing something that's 4 weeks away when I really need to be focusing on what's 2 weeks away, and then kind of keep that rotation going that way. Um, so that really helps. And I don't have a lot of I mean, a lot of times I'm like in the middle of a project getting ready for another project. It's like it's not like, okay, I have a week off now. Now I can just focus on conducting. Nope. Dude, you got a concert tonight. you got you gotta have some chops for that. So I really just try to keep it all going. But the circle to me that I was talking about is more about taking care of yourself. Like being in an orchestra, it's very one-sided. There's no job like this. In an orchestra, like to talk about, classical musicians are jaded, they're disgruntled. There's a reason for that. If you work at McDonald's and you get a job cooking fries, right? If you cook fries really, really well, you do your job, what's going to happen? You're going to move up to burgers. And then if you do that really well, now maybe you'll move up to, taking the money. And if you do that really well, then maybe you move up to manager, assistant manager. Like you can actually move up in companies, you know. In an orchestra, there's no moving up. I do my job really, really well. I'm third trumpet. If I want to move up, I gotta audition. I gotta, I gotta. There's no like, here's your bonus. Now you can move up. It's like you are third trumpet for the rest of your life unless you are auditioning and trying to get a different job, right? And so that circle to me, what it does is it takes care of myself. It takes care of the expression that I need to give, the expression that needs to come out. So I need to compose so I can get that out and play my own music and hear that and be fulfilled from that. I need to conduct because then that's part of that musical expression where I'm not just the trumpet, I'm all the instruments. You know, I need to teach kids and that gets that part as well. You see the benefit of the work that you've done and passing that on to others. All these things help to take care of me so I can play third trumpet for 20 years in an orchestra and be okay,
Mhm.
and not just like, oh, I gotta come here and do third trumpet again. Oh, okay, we're doing Symphony
Pictures.
Fantastique again. Symphony Fantastique again. You know what I mean? It's like, no, in the between time, I just wrote a, I just wrote a piece for my trio, um, and we performed it, and the audience loved it. Like that's fulfilling to me, having that outlet, and then you can do your job. And most artists, if you think like you think in history, most artists didn't they were artists. They weren't just one-sided. Like Miles Davis drew pictures. He was a visual artist as well, you know. John Coltrane did other things too. Listened to classical music, studied classical music. Like there's all kind of like the artist thing is a circle. It's not just one pinpoint of an outlet. So for me, I have to do that in order to keep me good, you know.
Yeah, that's really good. And I feel like in education now, it's kind of like what you mentioned earlier. You have to make a choice. You have to be an expert in this one field and do this thing. And it's like you look back further, like you were mentioning, is oh no, these people played, they arranged, they conducted, they taught, they did all these things because one, they were trying to make a living, but two, it was like it's all part of musical expression and
The
part.
artistic expression is you don't want to pin it down to one thing. You want to let it blossom and let it be. Like you think about like the Renaissance man. That's what he was. He did a lot of stuff. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, right? He did so much stuff. He wasn't just a painter. The painter Leonardo da Vinci, but he did a lot of stuff. And so that's kind of where I want to be is what I am. It's like I'm finding that I just have that different thing, and I kind of dabbled in in art in visual art for a minute too. I was staying up late doing pictures and like kind of that kind of thing for a while. I haven't done that in a while. Got into oil paints and all that kind of stuff. I haven't done that in a while. But I mean, a lot of guys are, a lot of guys do like golf, like
Mhm.
trying to do that. But to me, I'm all about like the music. Like I just want to do everything music.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
all. Well, you had hinted at like teaching as part of your circle, right? And I know you started this organization called Herbert's City Trumpets. Could you talk about like how that program started and like what was the inspiration of starting that group and what that whole group is about?
Herb City Trumpets is what it
Yeah,
is. Herb City
Herb
Trumpets.
City Trumpets.
Yeah. It's well, it's actually a long story because I actually went to jail for a day. Um, it was this really weird thing where there was a parking space involved, and there's a guy who owns a park. I'm not gonna give you the long story, but he owns this parking lot, and I parked in his lot, not knowing that it was his lot, and it's near this Jamaican restaurant that I go to, and he really harassed the woman that owned the restaurant because people would park in his lot and he would get mad about it. There were some spaces right there that were metered spaces. This dude, and I kid you not, he would sit in his because he where his office was, he could see those spaces. He would sit there with binoculars and see that the parking spaces had expired, call the parking bureau so that they would give those cars tickets so that it would deter them to park there so they would pay money to park in his lot.
Wow.
Right? So I parked in this one lot, which I didn't think it was his lot. He comes out there, why are you parking there? He's yelling at me and stuff. And I'm like, and he's a shorter guy. And I was just like, hey, don't harass my lady, my girl there, Marlene. Like she's a good business. She's a woman. It's black owned. And he got all hot at me, and he was doing this at me, and just the police just happened to come by at that time. So after everything was said and done, the police were just like, "Herb, you're fine. Like you're calm. You're cool. Go ahead. We'll talk to him." When I come out from the restaurant after that had happened, um, the policeman said, "This guy wants to press charges against you." And I was like, "Press charges? I've never touched the guy or anything." Anyway, he pressed charges. I get a note in the mail said I need to go down, basically, to the police station. I call my lawyer just to have him check it out. Turns out that it was an arrest with no bail. So when I turned myself in, I had to go to jail.
Wow.
My lawyer, this is long. I said it wasn't going to be a long
No,
story.
it's good.
My lawyer said, go down there at midnight. Go down there, turn yourself in at midnight. That way you go in jail overnight, and in the morning we'll get you out and arraign you. Like, because if I had turned myself in at noon, just thinking I just go in there, turn it in, get the ticket, whatever, I would have been in jail like all day, and I wouldn't have even known. I would have known. But he called and worked it out for me. So I spent the night in jail, and then when I came out into my arraignment, I go into the holding cell. Every person in the holding cell was a black male. There was no white males in that holding cell. And I was just taken by how resourceful these kids were. Because the one guy was just like, "Hey, what you in for? Who's your judge? Oh man, he's cool. If this your first time, you're fine. You just do this, 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 and you'll be fine." Then he was like, "Who are you in for? Oh, you got him? You're in trouble." Like, and people were, all these guys were just, they had the system down. They were so intelligent. They were just misled, misguided. And so I was just like, what can I do so that I can stop maybe one of these guys from being in this place where I am right now? You know, like, they were all, I was the oldest person in there. They were all very young men. What can I do? And that was kind of it. I was just like, I want to do something to help that. So then I was talking to this guy who is he's the leader of something in Rochester called Rock Music, and it's basically they give lessons to string players and stuff from the city of Rochester. Pretty much free lessons. It's all subsidized and stuff. And he was like, let's start something for trumpet. And I was like, yes. And then there was this grant called My Brother's Keeper. It has something to do with Obama, and it's really about black men, black males. So I got in on that. We wrote a proposal about doing like a trumpet program and mentoring program, and we got the grant. so, so what it is it's me, and I have another guy who's an Eastman. He's at Eastman right now. I think he's like a junior or senior at Eastman. He helps teach as well. I teach the kids on Mondays and Tuesdays, and just give them lessons. And then on Fridays, I get them all together. We do like a little trumpet ensemble thing, and trumpet ensemble is basically like, you know, playing like C Jam blues or something, like, but it's just like getting them together. And these are all, I basically started most of these on trumpet, most of these kids on trumpet. And we get them together on Fridays and play, and then we have a meal together.
Mm.
And the meal is always, I pick different types of food from different places. So the last meal we had was Thai food, and I had pad Thai with the sauce and the peanuts, and I had fried spring rolls and fresh spring rolls, and it just opens up everything. Like, the food is such a huge part, because like these kids had never had pad Thai, they'd never had this fresh spring rolls. Like, they mostly hated them. They're like, "Oh man, what is this stuff? These things are all soft and this." I'm like, "You got to try it. You got to try it." Now they love the fried spring rolls because fried, anything fried, you know what I mean? But it's just opening them up to different things. We've had sushi, we've had Jamaican food, we've had African food. I did vegan food, vegan, like kind of like plant-based meat stuff, and I just
Mm.
hit different restaurants all around town. We had Italian, of course. We had what else did we had? Oh yeah, we had Mediterranean food like hummus and and stuff like that. Like I always hit different things, and so it's this whole thing where it's like they're like my sons. You know, I
Mm.
have like right now I'm up to about 17 or 18 boys,
Wow.
and you know, they all come in, and I think for some of these boys, a lot of single, you know, single parents, single moms, and for some of these boys, I am the male in their life that they can't move. Like I am that boundary for them. You know, they come in, have a seat. Oh, I want to sit over here. Nope, you're gonna sit right here. This is where you're gonna sit. Boom, sit there. Well, this is nope, you're gonna sit fine. Oh, I cut my finger. I need a band-aid. Can I go to my mom? Nope, you're gonna sit right there. You're not fine. You're not gonna die. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna sit right there. Oh, it hurts. Yep, it does. Sometimes life hurts. You're gonna be just fine. And he is. You know what I mean? It's like you're not bleeding, nothing's falling off. You know what I mean? But it's like just kind of giving them a no, not play this, do this, you know. So it's very rewarding for me as well. You know, it's very rewarding to have these boys in the class. And eventually what we're going to do is going to have different mentors come in on Fridays and talk to them. Right now it's just been me just kind of dealing with them. And
Hmm.
it's a good program. It's a
It's
good
awesome.
program.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we got a grant for $65,000 to kind of keep it running this year, and that pays me so that I can like not do other stuff and do that, and then it pays for like the meals, and then like um, it also pays for like each person that comes into the program gets a brand new Bach TR 500,
Nice.
not the TR 300.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It actually, and you know what? Like every horn that I get, I play it first. And there's this one horn. I was like, this horn is good. Trumpet. It's like it was like a lightweight. It had a really nice lead sound to it. I ended up giving it to the kid because I mean I couldn't keep it, but I was like, I would keep this horn. Because you know
Very-
I have because I'm an artist with Bach.
yes, yes.
They give me a deal on those horns for the kids. So.
Awesome. That's great.
Trumpets.
Is there a particular age group for these
No,
guys? No.
no age, and that's actually one of the things that's really cool. So I got like I got like a 10-year-old there that's starting trumpet. I have like a 14-year-old that's starting trumpet. You know, I have 15-year-old kid that's been playing trumpet for a while and all in between. So when we eat, it's like a table of like all these different ages and they're just kind of it's just amazing to me like to see them sitting down at the table eating and couple times I'm like, Naven, sit down. What are you doing? You know, Taekwon, no, you can't do that. Sit down. No, you can't throw the water bottles. But like they're sitting there, they're enjoying one another, and it's positive. It's up. It's good. You know, all around trumpet and stuff. So it's a good
Yeah,
program.
that's pretty awesome. I mean, and like you said, I think incorporating a meal, something that like everybody needs food,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like it's like, okay, trumpet's what's going to bring you there, but then you have the fellowship of eating together. And I think that
Yes,
kind of breaks barriers and breaks bonds.
totally
And it
does.
provides that stability of like thinking about like when you're young and you're having, meals with your family and maybe they don't have that situation. Maybe they have to make their own meals or, whatever, or they're eating on the couch or something like that. Maybe this is their one meal a week where they're eating together with a male figure that's older and providing insight. It's like that could be really transformative for them.
Yep, that is you're hitting it right on the money. And like there's this one woman that I have both of her sons. I have okay, she has four kids, and I have two of her kids. One is 10, one is 13, I believe. And one's Taekwon and one is Taijan, which I always mix it up. But I'm here, T John. He's like, I'm not T John. I'm not Taijan. I'm Taekwon. I'm like, okay. But so she I have two of her sons. They live right down the street from the school. So they walked there, and so she wanted to play the trumpet. So I gave her a trumpet as well. I had an older one that I gave to her. And so, in order for her to play, she had to come with her two kids, and she would bring the other kids too. So now I got all four of her sons and her. And when it's time to eat, what am I going to say? No, you can't feed. No, I'm sorry, you can't feed them. They're not part of. Feed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Feed everybody. And then like there's other like a mom, a single mom. She comes on the Fridays. Another dad, single dad, he comes on a Friday. So we have like other adults. It's a real like family thing, and I think that's just a way to, you know, it's a way to connect um, the kids with their parents as well, and it's also a way for the parents to see. I mean, because I'm 52, and a lot of these parents are much younger than me. I've been through a lot of the things that they're going through now. So it's a way for them to see how I am interacting with their kid, you know, especially the moms too. Because when I'm just like, nope, you're fine, just have a seat. They're like, okay. you know? And I see the mom go,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah,
That's
it's a good program, man.
that's awesome. Well, before we let you go, I am interested if you can, briefly talk about because you recently got into conducting, and I know you made your uh, Rochester Phil debut like maybe a year ago. I remember seeing you post about that, and I was like really excited because I didn't even know you were into conducting. So I was wondering if you can kind of talk about this part of your career. Is conducting something you've always been interested in, or is it just something like later along your career? So I would like to try that. So how did that come about?
So in high school, um, like I said, I went to school for creative and performing arts,
Mm-hmm.
which we kind of said that we were like, remember the movie Fame?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's probably.
No, I've seen it.
I want to live forever.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, um, we kind of we kind of said that's us, in Cincinnati, and so one of the things that we did was every year we did musicals, maybe two musicals, sometimes two musicals a year, and it was a big money maker for the school because we were known for that. And then we would have kids from other schools come to our school to see the musical that we played. And when the kids would come in, it was always this thing that we would have completely student run musicals, completely student run.
Mm-hmm.
So everything from production to lighting to everything, stage manager, everything was student run, and that also included the conductor. And so I remember in high school conducting the musical Peter Pan. So you got to hear the cues, you know, and now we're going to sing. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? Whatever. And so I had to do that in high school. So I always liked it. I always just liked conducting. But then when I went to college, I took a conducting class with Donald Hunsberger. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like a really like long extensive thing, but like and especially as being an education major, you kind of had to take um, a little bit of conducting. But I always kind of wanted to get into it. But I was really focusing more on trumpet and stuff in college. And then like slowly I started kind of getting little gigs. Like I was the director of jazz bands at Rochester Institute of Technology. Just little gigs I would conduct and stuff around town, but not really like major or classical stuff, orchestral stuff. And but after years and years and years and years of seeing all these conductors come in, especially the educational conductors, they come in here just sad, man. They're not really talking to the kids well. And I did a lot of teaching and working with kids and being in front of schools and like showing off my trumpet. So I'm really good with like speaking to kids. I was just like, I think I can do this. I really feel I can do this. So at that point, I knew the assistant music. He was the guy that helped like put the concerts and stuff together for RPO, and I pitched him this thing. I was like, dude, I have this idea for an orchestra concert, and I was doing a lot of stuff with schools where I would go into a school by myself, be in front of the whole school, and just do a workshop, do a thing. I played guitar and sing little songs, and so I was used to kind of controlling an audience and being able to speak to that. And I was just like, now instead of pressing play on my computer to play a music for this whole group to explain a certain thing, I'll do that and have the orchestra behind me. And he was like, you know what, that sounds really good. Let's do it. So he just put me in there. He said it was his last year at RPO. He was like, I'm just gonna put you in, and any kind of fallout that I get, I'm gone. He took a chance on me, and I did that and killed it, man. I killed it. Like I came in there, conducted the orchestra. I remember the first thing I conducted with orchestra was Holst Mars. That was the first thing I conducted, and I wanted to. That wasn't the first thing on the concert, but I was like, we're going to start with the Holst, and they were just like, oh, okay, like the orchestra. Oh, okay, let's start with the Holst. You kind of see them kind of, and I was just like, dun, 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 just kind of giving it to them, and they were like, the orchestra's like, okay,
all right,
because they know me as being the guy in the back for so many years.
Yeah.
And then I had, and I know how to speak to kids, so I had my spiel together. So that I killed that, and then from there they asked me to do another one, and then this year I have an education concert coming up early March. I have one, and then late March I have another educational concert with them as well, and then I think I'm going to be doing also like a summer show in the summer with RPO.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was something that I just really wanted to do and just really put a lot of work into it. I mean, it doesn't just get up there and just like, oh, okay, I'm going to conduct. No, I put a lot of study, a lot of work, and even when you're doing it, it's just like there's just so much to know. In an orchestra, like you can never. I don't know. Maybe when I'm 70, I'll be like, oh, I don't even need to look at this piece. I can just come maybe it, kind of like Shostakovich 5 now. Shostakovich 5, I'll just show up and play it.
Yeah.
I'll get to that point for conducting, but right now I am nowhere near that. It's like, generally when I have to conduct something for like 2 weeks before I conduct it, I don't listen to any other music than the music that I'm conducting. I don't listen to any other music. Just when I get in the car, boom. When I'm standing around the house, listening to that. I have my Spotify playlist of the pieces that I want and kind of the conductors that I like. I have my YouTube playlist of like just kind of seeing it, and I just am like total on that music until I finish the concert.
That's amazing. Oh man. Wow, I hope to play under your baton one day,
Love that, man. Are you kidding? Fantastic. It's always a pleasure to play with you, Javion.
Yeah.
You're a good player. I really
Oh no. I just enjoyed sitting next to you and Courtney the few times I got to play with you guys. You guys are like hilarious, and so it's been great for me. But before we wrap up our interview with you, I was just curious, what are you listening to? I know I don't know if you're conducting, you have some projects coming up, but when you're not like tunnel vision on conducting piece, like what do you listen to in your spare time?
All right, so I love electronic music. And
Really?
I know a
Okay.
lot of people like electronic music. Oh, I can't believe it. I love electronic music. I love it. Um, to me, like electronic music has all the sounds of the orchestra. Like it
Mm,
has so many different sounds, and some of these guys that when they're writing it, there's like different sections and then different little nuances that happen that I love. And the thing that I really like about it, especially after a concert or when I'm conducting, it's like the whole time that you're in a concert or when you're conducting. Oh, let me just put it about me. When I'm in a concert and I'm conducting, I'm very critical of myself, of the or, you know, if I'm conducting of the orchestra, you're all about trying to hear what's wrong. You know, it's like okay, okay, I'll make a mark there. The horns were a little late. Okay, that note needs to be longer. Okay, oh, the basses aren't loud enough. Oh, trombones are too loud. Trombones are late. Bop bop bop. You know, all these things that you're constantly doing. Or if I'm playing a concert, okay, Herb, that note was too sharp. Okay, pull your slide out. Oh, missed that note. You know what I mean? It's like all these things that are in your head.
mm-hmm,
When I listen to electronic music, everything's perfect.
mm-hmm.
It's perfect and it's it's the beat is perfect. The pitches, it's all electronic, so the pitches are perfectly in tune. And if they're out of tune, they're supposed to be out of tune, you know. So my brain can just go, just relax.
Yeah, never thought about it like that.
Because when I listen to like a perfect example is listening to when you get a chance, listen to Miles Davis, um, Kind of Blue. I know you've never heard that before. Listen to Kind of Blue, and
Hmm.
listen to I can't remember which tune, but pretty much any tune. Like when Miles Davis is soloing, the rhythm section is right in the groove. Boom, boom. And he's playing right. Ba, da, da, dum, ba, da.
Ba-do-da.
Right, and like he's just right, and the rhythm section is like, yeah. When Coltrane comes in, the rhythm section goes like this for a second because he's so the rhythm section is like off for a minute, and then they're like, okay, we have to hold the beat. He's not gonna hold the beat, and then he can just float over that. But
Hmm.
I'm hearing all that stuff. I'm hearing like all that things aren't perfect and all that stuff, which is great, you know. But sometimes I need to just like, okay, I don't have to think about any of that stuff because it's perfect. Everything is right on the beat. And that's what electronic music gives me a lot of times. It's just this like I mean I could give you some names. Like one of the groups I love is Decap.
Decap. Okay.
Yeah, Decap.
I write that down.
Yeah, Decap. I'm looking at them right now. Let's see who's the other one I like. Decap. Who else? Oh, Galimatias. That's another one. Galimatias. It's kind of funky, groovy,
Okay.
you know, but it's just always in the pocket, always like right on pitch.
Mm.
And then to me, like that also helps me when I do listen, when I am conducting, because like I'm used to hearing everything perfect. So then when you go and hear stuff, something's off, you're like, that's out of tune. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the brain is used to hearing things like, and then you can tighten things up, you know?
Absolutely. I've never
Yeah,
thought about electronic music in that way. Yeah, yeah.
right.
That makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Puts the mind at ease. It's
It
like, all
really
right,
does. It really puts
interesting.
my mind at ease.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
Tyler, what are you listening to, Tyler?
So I found this video. Sometimes on YouTube will be like recommend videos for you,
Yeah.
and there's from Winter Jazz Fest. There, I think it was like this past year. It had Maurice Brown playing trumpet player, and Anderson Paak was his drummer.
Anderson.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was virtual. I mean, they were in the studio in different rooms recording stuff. But yeah, it was because I've listened to Maurice Brown a little bit before, but yeah, I'm starting to try to listen to him a little bit more because he does stuff like you mentioned with just different sounds with like pedals. Kind of, he reminds me of like a later kind of like Roy Hargrove type of
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, I love pedals. By the way, I have my whole pedal
yeah,
rig.
do you have a pedal board with everything?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
whole nother conversation.
yeah,
'Cause that's I love that. When I'm with my trio, I'm always with my pedals and loops and
Mm-hmm.
reverb and like chorusing and then like different harmonizer that I have too.
yeah. Distortion pedal. Do you have like the octave pedals and or
Most
there's like
definitely, yes. It's really nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
What about you, Javian?
I gotta check out this Maurice Brown though. I just
Oh
got a
yeah.
picture of him. It's hot.
Yeah, man. That's good stuff. I'm currently, well, not currently, but I have recently. I finally got around listening to you mentioned Wynton Marsalis earlier, but I recently listened to his Lincoln City. Their one of their newest album called I think it's called Democracy Suite. They just released like yeah. So I recently got around to listening to that. I mean, they always sound incredible. I've gotten to hear them live a bunch of times, and their recordings are just like killing, as you would imagine, or as you would expect. And then I've been listening to Nick Hakim. I think he's originally Australian, but he lives now in London. But his music is like super soulful. You wouldn't expect it when you look at him, but like his music is like super soulful. And I've listened to one of his most recent projects, and his he did a Tiny Desk concert. So you can hear it live as well. But his stuff is like really laid back. One of those like if you're home hanging out with a glass of wine, like that kind of vibe.
No,
So,
I got him here on Spotify.
Okay, yeah, definitely check him out. He's good. He's great. He's really great. So that's what I've been listening to.
Well, you guys have good names, Maurice Brown and Nick Hakim. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Well, Herb, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Like this conversation has been amazing. I learned. Granted, I mean, I've had a chance to hang out with you a few times, and but I've learned so much even just talking to you today. Stuff I didn't know, and I really appreciate your time. I know you have a concert to play in like a few hours from now, so. Yeah, you just show up to play Shasty 5, right? Third trumpet.
First trumpet is different, right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But if people want to like follow you and see what you're doing, or if you have like upcoming projects, where can they like find you or follow you, what you're doing?
Herb Trumpet. If you go to Herb Trumpet, herbtrumpet.com is my website, which is pretty lame. It doesn't have nothing. But if you go Facebook and hit up Herb Trumpet or Instagram Herb Trumpet, you can find me there. And I have one tune on Spotify, my trio, called Damn It Walpole. It's a long story. It's a good tune, good little tune of my trio.
Awesome. I'm gonna check that out next. I'll put that on the list. Awesome. And if anybody want to follow us, you can continue to follow Coffee and Clark's on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to follow me, you can find me at Nerdy Prof. Yeah, at Nerdy Prof on Instagram, or my first name on Facebook, Javian. So we want to thank you all for listening. And again, thank you, Herb Smith, for joining us. We hope to, pump out more episodes of great musicians like Mr. Smith here, and just keep following us, and we'll have more episodes for you shortly. Thank you all. See you next time.